Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts. Tom Conlon, welcome to the conversation today.
Nice to see you, John.
It's a pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from Rhode Island. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. Today, we're going to be talking about advice for young people, Gen Z workers, individuals searching for employment and key factors they should be considering in their job search. I think it's a big topic. It's an interesting labor market out there today. And I think particularly for younger workers, it's hard right now. And we've seen ebbs and flows. We've seen the pendulum swing kind of back and forth over the last few years, during the pandemic, post-pandemic, what it looks like for workers generally, but particularly for younger workers. So we're going to try to unpack this, explore this a little bit together today. As we get started, I wanted to share Tom's bio with everybody. North Street founder Tom Conlon has more than 20 years of experience in design, web programming, copywriting, operations, and people management. Prior to founding North Street, Tom began his career in the consumer publishing industry, first as a web designer and developer, then as a writer and editor for top media outlets, including Wired, Men's Journal, AOL, and Popular Science. Tom earned a degree in communications with a minor in history from Fordham University. He is a proud member of the New York City chapter of Entrepreneurs Organization, where he served as chair of the program's Accelerator for small businesses. There's a whole lot more I could say about Tom and his background, but Tom, I'm going to pause there. Anything you would like to highlight about your background or personal context before we dive on in?
No, that was well done, and I would just say that, and we can talk about this later or not, but a fun factoid about me is that I started a design agency despite being colorblind.
Oh, wow. That is a fun fact. Very cool. Very cool. I'm not quite sure how that works, but I'm sure you did a
I
bang up
hired,
job.
it started working better once I started hiring much more talented and vision capable
Yeah.
designers.
Very, very good. It's like being an audio engineer and being like mostly or partially
Yeah.
deaf, I guess. I don't even know, but very cool. Very cool. Well, one of the things I know that you spend a lot of time on is you do a lot of things, but you spend a lot of time and energy thinking about the job search world and in the labor market and it really is for younger workers right now in particular. It's hard for everybody, but for younger workers in particular, navigating this space can be challenging and for a variety of reasons. Maybe we can get into some of those reasons. But one of the things I was talking with a group of students, it was maybe a couple of weeks ago, and they were specifically at the time, the context of that conversation was around AI, it was around automation, disruptive technologies, and they were just so frustrated. I think unduly so because I don't think AI has progressed to the point where they were describing. But they were saying all of their entry level positions are getting displaced by AI, and so they can't get jobs. So I'm like, I'm not quite sure that's true, at least not yet. But the point is a good one, and that is that it's just increasingly challenging, I think, for young workers to get that foot in the door, to get those first experiences, whether it's AI as a culprit or whether it's whatever, right? And so, yeah, what do you see as some of those causes? What do you see as some of those challenges? And then we can start to get into, what we can do about it. Like what can young people do and what can organizations do to support them? Because
Yeah.
we need, as organizations, we need young people. If we don't help the incoming class of the labor force, then we're going to be in big trouble in 10 years, right?
Yep. Yep. And I think that is my main concern too, is just sort of like the short-mindedness of the companies that are hiring, right? Because it really is like I honestly think the biggest challenge right now, there's two. I think one is COVID and like the sort of remote work renaissance or awakening that sort of happened. that's number one, and we can talk about that. And then number two is I think that managers and companies in general are, are looking, at least right now in my experience, are looking more for employees that they can sort of wind up and just put them in a direction, and then they go and they're good, and they're good to
Yeah.
go, and they can check in with little oversight. And I think those kind of go hand in hand, right? So it's like, I'll start with the COVID thing. I mean, it is very hard. When I came out of work, when I came out of college and I started work, I was 21. I sat in a cubicle next to my boss, like my boss. I sat basically in a big cubicle with her. I Even if I wasn't working directly with her on things, I just absorbed a lot through osmosis, right? Like I heard
Yeah.
her on the phone. I saw her in meetings. I saw how she conducted herself. Professionally. There were opportunities for me to like offer my help for something, just to like jump into something, or she'd see me working on something and she'd be able to just sort of give me like really fast feedback right away. And I think that
Yeah.
like,
Just in the moment. Yeah.
yeah, and I think that like while people who are already in the workforce can adapt to remote work because they sort of have this idea of like how the company or how a company should be functioning under normal times. Fact is, like, this now is normal times, and so I think that like it's hard to bring young people on and not without having to sort of prescribe every minute of their day, I think, or that's at least what people think that they need to do. And so I think that that stops people from hiring entry level people. And then the second piece, and because it's again in this like remote work context, I think it's so hard to keep track of what people are doing. And I don't mean like in a big brother kind of way. And so I think that's why there's this desire to hire somebody who's already just got the experience. You can wind them up, send them off, and they'll perform. But to your point, John, like, well, what happens when the current workforce starts to age out? Like, we are not creating our next generation of like managers and leaders and doers. And I agree that I think we're going to find ourselves in a tough spot in a decade or so.
Yeah, well, and the reality is they are aging out, right? Like, and they have been aging out. Like it's been an ongoing issue. And the only reason why we've been surviving it is because people are just working later and later into life. People are extending their careers. And so if people had been retiring, at the age that they had traditionally been retiring, I think we'd be screwed, honestly. Like, and so I'm not sure how long that can last, really. So we have all these interesting labor force dynamics that I think we really haven't figured out how to navigate, or really what we're going to do about it in the long run. And it's also interesting. You mentioned your experience coming out of college, getting that first job. Um, the kind of the organic mentorship, the organic feedback, coaching that you would receive. One of the things I hear so much from employers, why they don't like working with young employees, is kind of this entitlement, because younger employees, Gen Z workers, they're thirsty for coaching and mentorship. They're
Yeah.
thirsty for feedback. And to your point, a lot of employers are just like, no, I just want to wind someone up. I want to send them on their way. I don't want to have to prescribe. I don't want to have to tell them how to do stuff. I don't want to tell them what to do, as if that's some sort of a burden, or as though that's some sort of like a weird, strange thing. But I'm like, no, like, isn't that how it always was? Like,
Right.
isn't that how it was for you and me? Isn't that how it was
Yeah,
for them? Like, when you were new in your career, didn't you shadow people? Didn't you
absolutely.
learn the ropes? Didn't you have people to help you figure out what to do? I think that's how it was, and for some reason, I'm not quite sure why. I'm not the modern leader doesn't think that they need to coach, mentor, and train up entry level employees.
Yeah, it's
And
this.
they think that's entitled, or they think that that's high maintenance. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, it reminds me of like this, it's that sort of like it's like they've climbed the corporate ladder, but then they kind of pulled the ladder up into the into the ceiling or whatever, so that like whoever was behind them couldn't follow them up the ladder. It's this really sort of interesting interesting thing that's happening. I honestly just think that like, well, first of all, this still exists, but not as much. But I mean, I remember there used to be a lot of companies that had, they still do, but there were many more of them, I think, that had these sort of professional training systems, or just like, I guess it wasn't a system, but it was like it was a track, right? It was just understood that like, oh, the new class is coming in, we're going to train them, and then they're going to become the sort of like next
Yeah,
level,
yeah,
and the next generation comes in, and like that, those are like only very, very big companies do that now.
yeah.
I mean, it is definitely a financial thing. I mean, for us, we hire junior and senior people, and we can talk about kind of why and everything. But yeah, I just think that like, yeah, I'm just not. It is expensive, right? If you're gonna,
Yeah, it is.
it's expensive from a time perspective, and time is money, right? And so like, if you bring on somebody young, it's just like, just know that part of your time, or or a manager's time, is now also going to be dedicated to that job. But it's a short-term investment for a long-term payoff. You know what I mean? Because what
Yeah,
ends up happening when we bring in younger people, we don't expect them to stay at North Street forever, right? Like, I mean, they can if they want to, but we've sort of, what we say to them is, look, there's essentially like three salary ranges to every position, and the expectations are pretty clear as to like how you can go from one to the next to the next. And by the time they get to the last sort of phase, we've turned someone who was super junior and also affordable into essentially like a homemade model employee, or homemade model like team member, right? Like they've come up through our systems, and they just know everything about our company and how we do things. And they can make they ultimately make the better employee than someone who you bring in senior, just like
right.
and just add them into the mix. You know what I mean? And so I think it's that. I think it's a fear of I think it's focusing on the upfront investment without sort of thinking about the long-term payoff.
Yeah. So that short-termism, um, I think is absolutely partially it, and it's unfortunate, and that's indicative of just society at large,
Yeah.
which that's a whole other conversation. Um, and you also mentioned something that I think is just important to acknowledge, and that is that we so often aren't willing to invest into our employees for fear that they're just going to leave us, right? And
Yeah.
and that may be true. Like you may invest and pour into the training of your employees today, and they may leave you tomorrow. But I guess what's the alternative? If you don't invest in your employees today, I guarantee you that they will leave you tomorrow.
Yep. Yep.
And
Yeah.
so if you want an engaged workforce, if you want a positive employee experience where people are motivated, where they're going to give you like go beyond, and not just show up and do the bare minimum to keep their job, but actually show up and be committed and go beyond what's required and like really be creative and drive results. Like you got to invest in them. You just have
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
And it will pay off. Like if you have even a little bit of a long-term perspective on it, it will pay off in ways you just described, and it will be worthwhile to the organization. And so yeah, I just think we have to perhaps have a little bit of a reset for how we perceive entry level positions and younger workers and bringing people in and giving them lanes of growth within organizations, um,
Yeah.
and not just looking at how do we get these tasks done today to help us do what we need to do without any thought of like how we're developing the bench for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. It's also
that's
not just the
oh, go
bench,
ahead.
right? Like it's also like younger people bring information and talents to the organization that like, let's just say more tenured workers necessarily like can't necessarily, right? It's like we they're like the younger folks are on the edge of like technology, on the edge of like social media. They use they like for us, we're a design and like user experience agency. They use websites and content in a different way, and that's going to be the way that sort of takes over. As like the older population ages out, it's like this is their way of working is how the world is going to work, and so we should learn from them just as much as they're going to learn from us. I think.
So, but part of the challenge is, we can lament, this, or,
Yeah.
you say, organizations shouldn't do this, or leaders should shift the way they think, or blah, blah, blah. But it is the reality. Like, and so this is the context in which young workers have to figure out how to find work and get jobs and launch their careers. So,
Yeah.
given the context, like, what kind of advice would you give younger workers? Who are launching, starting their careers, trying to get their foot in the door, and navigate this current situation.
The biggest piece of advice that I give people is that it is all about your network.
Yeah,
It is all about who you know or who you can be introduced to. And I know that sounds like insidery, but it's not really. I come from a family where my dad was an electrician. I went to New York City and I got my first job through like sending in like a resume. Like I sent in a resume mail and got an interview. And so I also was a believer of like, well, you have to get in under your own, your resume should shine at the top of the pile and you should get in on your own merits. But that's not really how the world works, especially with these like now hiring algorithms that like just kick out resumes before any human being has ever even looked at them. And so I think it's becoming increasingly important to like, who do you know? It could be someone you caddied for one summer on the golf course. It could be your grandfather's friend. It could be your advisor at schools. Like it could be your advisor at school. It could be your alumni network. You know what I mean? Like that's a big
yeah.
one. Like alumni networks, by the way, are stronger than most people think. I say this, and I would say, and I've people have told me this, that if someone reaches out to them blindly and just says, "Oh, hey, I went to Fordham University in New York," they're like, "Hey, I'm a Fordham grad. Would love to pick your brain about X, Y, Z." I will take that call 100% of the time. I don't know. There's just
Hmm.
something about. So I think like young people should first start there. It's like, okay, who do I know, or who can I like be associated with? It's like, okay, you've got an alumni network, like press that. Like think about, I was part of something. I'm of Irish American descent. I was a part of something at one point in New York. There was some sort of like Irish American marketing, thing. It was like, okay, whatever. We're all strung together by this one thread, and like that just kind of lowers the barrier, opens the doors a little bit more to have conversations with people and meet new people. And so I would just say it's who you know. And I'll give you an example. I was mentoring a student from Fordham. She was trying to break into the beauty industry as like a social media intern, had sent her email, had sent her resume literally everywhere. And we were looking at the jobs that she was looking at. And there was a job at a perfume company. And she was like, I was like, "Oh, did you apply to this?" She's like, "Yeah, I did. I applied the other day and I haven't heard anything back." And I said, "Well, the funny thing is I went to the person who's hiring for this job. I went to her wedding. So give me a second and I'll just write an email and just see like if she'll meet you." And of course she met her because she knows me, hired her. She stayed there as an intern, then became, whatever the second level is after an intern, and then left and went to another beauty company. And her career is off to a start. And it's literally because I took a resume that had already been sent in and just said, "Hey," to the person who was hiring, who I happen to know. I just said, "Hey, can you take like a second look at this? Don't do me any favors. Like, don't hire her just because I'm asking you to, but take a second look at this." And like that's I think the biggest piece of advice I can give. Secondly, and this is actually part of that, would be finding a mentor. Like find a mentor of some kind. It can just be someone who's in a field you want to get into, someone who's just run a business and just knows how to run a business, because a mentor can do two things. They can help you just figure things out, like what your direction is, what the best practices are, what to do, what not to do, who to talk to, etc. But they can also make introductions just to their own personal network and would be happy to do it once they get to know you.
Yeah. So the networking piece, the mentor piece, the introductions piece, all of that just so, so vital. And I wish, like, I'm with you. Like, I wish my resume could speak for itself. I wish my good work was enough. I wish, I could just land positions just on my own merits always, like it would be nice if everything worked that way. But that's just not the world that we're in. And you mentioned the algorithms. Like literally, there aren't people looking. I mean, in most cases nowadays, there aren't even people looking at your resume. So you submit something, especially if you're doing a shotgun approach, like the chances of you actually having a human person look at your resume for a particular position is kind of low. You have to get lucky. You have to like search word optimize, optimize your resume for particular positions, etc. And so leverage your network, leverage in any way that you can, and it's okay. Like you're not. I know people feel like they're somehow cheating the
It
system, and
feels
you're
dirty.
not.
It does. It feels dirty. It feels like entitled, but it's not. It's not at all. This is how the world works. And like you just
It,
have to
it
get.
Yeah, and it does feel dirty, and it feels, because let's be honest, there are people that are privileged and have more connections than others for no. I
Yep,
mean, it's not because they did anything in particular. They just have those connections, and that's frustrating. And I get it.
yep,
But that just means the rest of us have to hustle a little bit more to build our networks.
yep,
And just know you just got to know that that's the way it is, and start to work at it.
yeah,
And also at the same time, build your skill set, build your competencies and capabilities, do good work so that when you do get that introduction, you can wow them, right?
yep.
And then go from there. Well,
Yeah.
Tom, I know you have a hard stop. You need to get on your way. But as we wrap things up, I just wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, and then give us a final word for today.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Well, Tom Conlon, my website's northstreetcreative.com. Um, that's the website for my design agency, where you can see some of our work and get to know about us. A parting thought would be, and I just thought of this as we were talking, would be another piece of advice. And I think that I would actually advise younger people to look for smaller companies, because smaller companies are not actually going to have that necessarily that sort of algorithm, like
Yeah,
that
true.
infrastructure. And so like me, like we're hiring right now, and I'm looking at the resume. I'm not the first round, but like I am looking at the resumes, and I've seen people even send in like little Loom videos of themselves just introducing themselves. And if you know like a small company is actually seeing these things rather than an algorithm, like man, you've got that person who sent in the video got an interview for sure. I was like, that's awesome. So like smaller companies, and try to be creative in your search and press your contacts or make new ones.
Yes, yes. Well said. Tom, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, get connected, find out more about what Tom can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.